Yo.
Yo.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Yo.
Welcome to Let's No Longer Waste Time, Let's Podcast. He is John Marsh. I'm John Helfman.
Hello.
And I don't know. What's going on?
What a week, man.
Yeah.
What a week. It's been a week. I can tell you that. It's been
Is that
something. Yeah. We talk about it. Have you ever been fired?
A couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Did
was
you get
that
fired?
like?
We fired
No.
or no?
We'll unpack that, as they say. But what? So when you got fired, were you fired? Like, you're out of here.
I was
tell
fired.
Me about.
I was fired a week before my wedding. So fired. Like, didn't see it coming. Deserved it. I was an asshole. I didn't like working at that job. But it wasn't like there was no probation.
Mm-hmm.
There was no warning. Like, and I was just getting ready to leave for, I think I was going to take 3 weeks, like the week before. No, it was just 2 weeks. Like, I was going to work up until the wedding weekend and then 2-week honeymoon. And like I said, I didn't like the job. I hadn't been there long at all.
Now, were you with an agency? Is this agency world? Okay.
Yeah. This is Donor in Baltimore.
Okay.
And I knew that when I got back from my honeymoon, I would start looking for a job. So the creative director called me into his office, and literally like my last day, and was like, we're going to have to let you go. Ooh. And I'm like, really? And he was like, I don't think it's a good fit. I don't think it's working out. And like I said, I knew it wasn't a good fit. Right.
You knew too.
I didn't know. Right? I assumed he knew it wasn't a good fit because I was very insubordinate. But, I was just like, inside, I was thinking, like, you did this a week before my wedding. Like, that's one of the worst things you could possibly do. But then he said, look, we know you haven't been here a long time. We know that you're getting married. We know that you're going to be on a honeymoon. So we're going to give you 2 months worth of severance so that you can get back and get on your feet. And it also happened like two months after 9/11. So you remember how great that economy was, right? And so a lot of uncertainty. And it was also right before the holidays. So I was really conflicted inside, because on one hand, I was like, you're seriously firing me without warning right before my wedding and honeymoon. Like, that's the worst fucking thing that someone could do to someone else. Like, the most important weekend of your life and your honeymoon, like that. And I'm going to fire you right before that happens. So just have fun with that on your mind, right? That was half of me. The other half was like, holy shit, like, I hate this job. I was going to look when I got back.
Right.
Now I have a month and a half to find a new job, and I'm getting paid for it. They're paying me to do nothing but search for a job. This is amazing.
It's a strange feeling.
Yeah. But I couldn't let him know that. Right. So I just looked at him. I'm like, that's the worst thing anyone's ever done to me. And he immediately like he's not a bad guy. He's one of those guys who had the job, golden handcuffs, he was there kind of going through the motions. And his whole face just kind of went like, I probably didn't think this through. Right. And I looked at him. I'm like, why could you not have just waited for me to get back from my honeymoon where everything's great, and then give me a month and a half of severance? Like, why not do that?
Now, did you feel that because it's a relationship between an employer and an employee, or your boss and you, that you were, like you said, you had your issues and you were, I can't remember what you just said. Like,
I was insubordinate. I was an asshole. Yeah.
Were you ever pulled into his office and like, hey, John, let's address this like assholeness stuff? It's like, or did it hit you? Like, were you shocked, or like, did you guys discuss this at all? Like, were you just like, hey, no?
It was surprising.
He never once said to you, like, come in here and close the door. We got to talk about this, man. You're walking around making people cry. You're being an asshole. You can't do that. Like,
I told them that during the interview.
Good work.
They knew going in I made people cry, but no, not like literally.
That's the part that I find in our business, in advertising and marketing, that there's such a disservice. I'm sure it's in other industries. there's such a disservice to the employee. If you walk in and then I'll unpack this, the manila folder on the table and your boss is there and the HR person's there and you know what you're walking into.
Sure.
And it's a surprise. Now, like it's a surprise and it isn't. You know when it's shitting the bed. You know when you're being a jerk and you know when they're being a jerk. So you're like, well, I guess we're just getting along as a couple, but we're both assholes. But they're the ones that have the control and can control what I've been saying, controlling the narrative. They can say, well, you did this, this, and this, but they don't know the circumstances possibly of why you were doing this, this, and this. They can just say, he's being insubordinate, or this, we're getting complaints, so let's let go of the problem.
Right.
Even though you might be out there trying to be a change agent and trying to fix things, they never might see that as thus.
No,
I mean,
no one got better.
Yeah.
Right. Like no one got better because there was no exploration.
Yeah.
I think he knew, from really early on, and I knew from really early on.
Your pride take a hit? Like someone didn't like you? You're like, oh, when you left, like,
no, I mean, it was like,
right.
I just didn't, I didn't, it was almost a badge of honor, right? There's a lot of people who've been fired from that place. So it was almost like, and it actually helped me get my next job because, after I was fired, I remember I came home and I told my wife and she immediately started to cry. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, you know how much I hate that place. Like, I'm going to get a job. Like, I can start looking now. And she's like, well, we're going to be
your new wife, your brand new wife,
right? Like I always tell my father-in-law still to this day, you let your daughter marry an unemployed guy, right? Because I mean, technically
you were standing while she was walking down the aisle, jobless.
It's
amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, I like my chances of finding another job.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not in Baltimore. It's not a really good ad market. So I thought like, I guess I'm going to move, but I ended up, so when I got back from my honeymoon, I ended up going to probably the best agency at the time in Baltimore, right? Eisner. And it's the only other place I'd want to work. If I didn't get a job there, we were moving. There was just no other place that I felt like I could be a good fit. And that's not an indictment on the other agencies. It's just what I wanted out of a career and where I thought I could thrive. And so when I got back from the honeymoon, I called the creative director and, send me your portfolio, just, and we'll process you. And I said, here's the deal. I said, I'm going to come in tomorrow and hopefully you'll see me. And if you don't, I'll wait in the lobby. I'm also willing to work for you for free for the next month. And if I said, because I got fired from Donor and I'm on severance. And he was like, oh, I got fired from Donor too. Right. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, of course.
It's like you said, it's a badge of honor.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
So he was like, well, I'm really busy tomorrow. I said, okay, I'll keep coming in until you're not. So I literally woke up next morning, came in, told the receptionist I was there to see the creative director, and then just sat in the lobby. Like I didn't have a website, right? This is 2001. Or it might have been 2000. Yeah, it was 2001. So I had the giant suitcase, with the portfolio case with all my work. Yeah, like it made me look so successful and professional, right?
But it just flipped through it.
Yeah, it's just spray mounted on foam cord, like it's just like it's like I walk around with it and people's like, that guy's a professional, right? And it's like $3.50 worth of materials inside. But so I sit down and I wait. And after about an hour, he comes downstairs smiling, shaking his head. He's like, what is going on? Like, like, what's your deal? And we went up to his office. I said, look, I'll work for you for free for a month. And he's like, I don't understand why you would do that. I said, because Donor's paying me for a month and a half.
Right.
This is the only job in Baltimore I want. So either after a month you like me and think that I'll bring value, or you hate me and I'll leave town with absolutely no what ifs or regrets. It's a win-win. Like, I'll never call you again.
He gets free work.
Yeah. And he was like, and we ended up talking for like 3 hours. Right. And there, at one point I want to say busy, huh? Yeah. Is that just your line? Right. But we ended up talking for about 3 hours. And then the next day he called me and was like, I actually have an assignment that I think you would be really good at. They had an automotive account, but not a ton of automotive experience, which seems par for the course of an agency, right? But I had a ton of automotive experience. So he's like, and the good news is that there's a budget, so I can actually pay you freelance. And I was like, awesome. So I showed up and ended up freelancing there for about 6 months. Like they call me the permalancer, right? Like
Right.
I had an email, phone, office, and I was making good money because freelance money is always better than regular money, you know,
Right.
salary money, but it's just uncertain, right? That's the trade-off. So after about 6 months, he called me in the office and he's like, I've got some bad news. And I'm like, what? He's like, I have to put you on salary. And I was like, oh. I was like, man, you know, because I knew it was a pay cut. But yeah,
the gravy train was going so well. Yeah.
So I did land on my feet. That doesn't change the fact that the firing was just such an asshole move.
Yeah, it's tough because to say how was your week? I'm not fired. And I don't even know, I haven't signed anything. What they're doing is winding down me as the leader of the division with the people that were working for me. So I think they can reevaluate what they want to do with the division I started. So I wasn't fired, but I wasn't, promoted.
Yeah. I get the feeling
the opposite of it. Like
so
when you and I worked together, I wasn't fired, but there was a point where you had to make some business decisions. And I understand being old and expensive, like those business decisions. Like it was more like it wasn't performance based, at least.
No,
it
wasn't.
You could be like, yeah, you suck.
No, it wasn't.
But so that made me feel like I left and you kept me on for so long that I was appreciative. You know what I mean? Like you did me a solid. So there wasn't a point where I was like, fuck this. A couple other agency jobs where I was let go. One, they cleaned out everyone. So it was like
one of those.
A red wedding.
Everyone. I showed up and the door was locked.
Yeah. I remember you telling a story like everyone's outside and you're like, I guess we're not getting paid. It was a big agency with a small office in DC. They kept the skeleton staff and they just handed out. No one's computer worked all of a sudden. I mean, it was a fucking mob hit. It like all of a sudden everyone at the same time went and they go for hold. They came up out of their cubicle and everyone was looking at each other. And I was like, what the fuck's happening? Like, I thought like our server went down.
Right.
No, what's happening is 30 people are losing their job like that. Like it happened like at one thing. And I remember feeling that same thing, that duality of like calm and like, okay, this is an opportunity. And the other part of me was like, fuck. But I was married at the time. And I remember going home and my ex was like, she was in the kitchen and I told her like what had happened. And she was gracious in the sense of she understood like something had happened. She sort of made it sound like not it was my fault that the whole office, but it was like, you're in this industry and God damn it, why can't you just go work for an insurance? You know what I mean? She never said that, but there was a tonality to it. But right. I remember being like, I'll find a job. You know what I mean? Like I was like, it's advertising. Like I'll find a job.
And plus it's easy for us to freelance. Like it's easy for us to find work while we're looking for a job.
Right. And at that time, now that we're old and expensive with gray beards, like it's more consulting. You're like, okay, we're going to consult now. Like it's not a freelance, you know,
I'm going to charge you to learn from my failures.
I know where all the landmines are because I stepped on all of them and I ran through that field. So what was interesting is there was one agency where I felt I was let go because it was performance based in the sense of the same thing you had, like my personality and their personality didn't match up. But talk about like blindsided. I was like, what is going on? And I told my boss, when he hired me, I said, if you could do me solid, because I know this business, if you can tell me, give me a wink, like something's going down, that would do me a solid. And he's like, yeah, man, of course. I know how this thing is. I know how this business is. I would totally do that. And when I walked in that office and there was a manila folder on his desk and he looked all weird, I was like, you motherfucker. And I remember just
Right.
saying it out loud. And he looked at me and I was like, what do I have to sign? How much severance did I get? And like, I was like, let's just do this. Like, I don't want to hear the song. I don't want to hear the dance. I don't want to hear like the whys, because it doesn't matter at this point. It's just you and me in a room, man. And I told you, can you do me a solid? And you couldn't even do that. Like, because I wasn't going to do anything. I wasn't going to put I'm not that smart. I can't put a
Right.
virus in a computer. I'm not going to sabotage our clients because it's a small town. I'm a professional to a point. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, but you're professional when it comes to how to maneuver around the industry.
I know the gig.
Yeah.
And I know the dance. And
that's one thing I've never understood. Like, I get if you're in a high security, if you're a programmer, all these things, like when the fire squad comes in with boxes and like escort you out of the building. I've never been escorted out of the building. Yeah.
Right. The HR, she was the CFO, but also did all the HR, Kathy, God bless her. She stood at my cubicle
while you packed.
Like, yeah. And I was like, what do you think I'm going to do? And she's like, well, we've had some really bad breakups. And I said, well, that's a reflective moment with you guys.
Yeah,
maybe you should look inwardly.
Maybe there's a common denominator.
Maybe there's something like, if you think I'm going to flip out and like start throwing stuff, well, maybe you're hiring the wrong people, or maybe you're treating them differently, or maybe it's something in your process. But inherently, people don't want these types of exits. But she kept standing there, and I was like, oh God, okay. And then she's like,
shitty people always ruin it for the good people, right? Like you have no choice but to maneuver like the person is like the slowest running animal in the herd, right? Like because they've been burned so many times by people who do steal shit or put a virus in the computer or burn the place to the ground, and so they have no choice but to assume everyone's going to do that. I mean, it's like it's no different than any than life, right? Like, it's like when I told you I think we did it on the podcast when I talked about I was going to help a woman carry her box.
Oh yeah.
And she looked at me like I was going to strangle her. Right. And it's not because I was going to strangle her. Right. It's because someone might have strangled her.
Might have,
So now every time you see a guy or anyone, it's a strangulation. First, guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah. So it's just this situation. Long story short, well, that's why we're podcasting. Long story short, it's really been cool because it's new, but it's giving me this like feeling of what are the possibilities. And for the first time in my career, I can take a second and just think like, what's on me and what's on them? Not like them meaning just this employer, but like, am I even in the right business? Am I good at what I do? You know what I mean? Like, have I had like, am I an imposter?
No.
And I'm just really good at, you know what I mean? Like, I'm having that moment. And again, it's not self-deprecation. It's not like, but I'm just really reevaluating my whole approach. And I have the time to do it. And I think I'm going to take that time for the first time and be like, what do I want to do? And who do I want to do it for? But what skill set can I really just apply so that someone finds value in that? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's healthy.
Right. And it feels healthy. Like, I'm not going to flip a table and be like, and I'm also not going to just dust off my resume and just take another vice president of account services job someplace, because literally 90 days later, the podcast is going to be about like, oh my God, you know what I mean? That moment of like, I think not that I'm burned out from it, but I think I just need to kind of rethink this business. And this business meaning the business that you and I are both in.
Podcasting.
Right, exactly.
I always tell people that interviewing for jobs is a two-way street. Like, whenever someone comes to me and says, what do you think I should put on my resume? Or do you think that they'll like this letter? I always say, put what you want to put on a resume.
Because if they
write
don't,
what you want to
right,
write. Because if someone looks at it and just goes, why the fuck did this guy list his hobbies? And you
right,
think your hobbies are important enough to who you are and could add value to a company, then you don't want to work there. If they don't
right,
care that you're into these kinds of things, you don't want to work there. It is a two-way street. You always think that like the company is interviewing the candidate, but so few people realize that the candidate is also interviewing the company. And
correct.
and that's,
Because
and you
I
can't
th-
just take when you take a job. And the job I got fired from that I hated, um I went there for money. I know I went there for money. Like I knew the kind of work. I sort of knew what I was
correct.
getting into. I might have been young and cocky enough to think that I could change the culture,
Mhm.
but it's not like I got there and I was like, this isn't what I thought it would be. I knew what it was. I knew what their salary was, right? And so
Right.
I took it. But yeah, and I learned from that.
Yeah. I think a lot of jobs, not a lot, but I'll back that down. Like I think jobs are just taken at times from necessity. Like
Hmm.
because life or someone or your partner or whoever is saying you need, the word need, a job and you need insurance. Well, yeah. I mean, insurance is very important. But when you have that hanging over your head, you're in a need position and the employer is well, let's see where this goes, but you need the job and they then have the upper hand in the negotiation. But if you look at it at a two-way street, that they need you and you need them, well, now it's an even playing field. But I always love when you, like, let's say you're interviewing and you go in and the, ooh, cat again, when you go in and you're like, you're not talking about money yet. Well, that's, what am I walking into? You know what I mean? Like there's also these things that there are taboos, like, well, we haven't talked about money yet. I was like, well, that's dumb, because if you are in it for income, shouldn't be about the money. Well, then pay me as much as you possibly can. Like
Right.
the negotiation then changes. If you're like, well, I just want to know what I'm walking into. Give me a range on the salary. Well, we're not there yet. Okay. Well, I didn't ask where I'm going to be parking my car and where the bathroom is yet, but I am going to ask you what is the salary range, because and it's probably part of the dance we're going to do. So it's kind of like making an even playing field in a way. Does that make, like, you know what I mean? Like kind of like leveling it all off.
Yeah. I mean, how many people do you think, like there's a big difference between a job and a career?
Right.
Like there's a lot of people out there who, and we all look, we all work, we love what we do, right? I love what I do, right? When I go to work, I enjoy my
Yes.
career.
You're very good at it.
But
I
well,
mean
thank
that.
you.
No,
But
you're right.
if I won the Powerball tomorrow, I'm getting the fuck out of there. Like it
Right.
really is still about the money, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
our time is very valuable. We do it for money. There is a financial
Of course.
transaction that takes place, right? But all jobs are necessities. I mean, all of us work, to make money.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a difference between people who just kind of have a job, like they show up to work, they're bitter every morning,
Mm-hmm.
like the cliche, like they're kind of on the
Punching the clock.
subway, crammed in
Yep.
with people, just, like bouncing around. And they just show up, they go through the motions, they go home, they get their check. I mean, no, it's funny because those people and usually end up at the same place for like 28 years.
Right.
Like, like when there's a job, when there's a career, that's a bit different. There's a bigger picture at play when you're in that company. It's not like you're thinking of your next move, right? It's not like you're sitting at your desk working for a company thinking like, how is this going to get me to my next job or my next gig? But there's a little bit of that subliminally,
Right.
subconsciously, like, you're thinking like, this is going to be good for my career. Like whenever someone at my agency says, oh man, this is going to make a great portfolio piece, I always think, well, fuck, because the only reason why you
Mhm.
care about it being a great portfolio piece is to get your next job,
Next
and
job.
and
Right.
and everyone always says that, oh, this is gonna be great for my book. Why do you need a book?
Yeah, you don't need a book
Fuck.
anymore because you're going to be here for the rest of your life.
Yeah. At
Right.
least I hope.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because I think we're the first generation, and I'm not, there's no fact in this, I mean, there's no science. We're probably the first generation of dreamers, of men, because our fathers did jobs. Most of our fathers, I would imagine, sweeping generality, that most of our fathers were just providers.
Right.
They did their job. They stayed there for 20 some years. They got the golden watch and they retired. And they didn't say, they never were like, you know, I always wanted to be a blank. And I think there was a percentage of men that were like that from that generation of like being born in the 40s. But then they raised men like us and women that kind of saw the potential of like, well, I can do, but we still had that provider gene, that like that DNA that says we always have to be providing, or you have to have a job. You have to have insurance. You have to have these things. But then there was this little part of us that was like, yeah, but we saw the potential of the possibility of owning a small business, the possibility of doing your own thing. And I think that as generations open up and as now technology and everything, people are really seeing they can do what they, if they can make a living doing it, the possibilities are almost endless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you were in, it was 1985, do you know how hard it would be? Just think about all the tactics and the things you have to do if you just wanted to make pickles. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
just marketing, advertising, getting people in the door, all that stuff. And just think what has changed now of being a small business, and how you can sort of do some of this stuff by yourself, and how you can bootstrap. And there are platforms and technologies that can help you. But now it's, well, I can, the market's almost flooded with all of these small businesses. And again, the marketplace always says, good ideas live, bad ideas die.
right.
So I think it is kind of this amazing place to be in, that I'm feeling sort of now as I have the potential of doing something. I don't know what it is.
I mean, one of the problems with young, you always, you'll read article about how young people just don't want to work. I mean, no one, here's a secret, young people, no one wants to work. That's why it's called work, right?
Yeah.
So I think that part of what you're talking about, I know so many people who are just coming out of college who want to start their own business, right? Because like you said, it's accessible, like
Right.
it's easy to do. Not easy to make money and be successful, but easy to start a business. You and I could start a business this afternoon, right?
Yep.
We could be up and running.
We'd have a website done literally by 6 p.m.
So I think that, and they see all these young gazillionaires, right, who are in the tech gazillionaires, and that's just what they want to do. But they never really take the time to learn the market, learn their industry, see what other people, like I've had people come up to me right after, in college. I actually know some people who were like, I'm going to start my own business when I get out of college. Can you give me some advice? You have a business. And I'm like, my advice is figure out what it is you want to do and you want to start, then go work for someone.
Go work for somebody
in that industry, like get paid to learn their mistakes, don't, because you make that mistake and you're fucked. But if you're there and you see the mistake, it's not your company's mistake, right? You're just an employee, but you should learn. And then they'll point to someone who didn't. They'll be like, well, this guy just did it right out of college and he's super successful. And I'll be like, well, you know why I can't counter that? Because I don't know the million dumbasses who aren't, because no one knows who they are. No one knows their name.
I think there's been a loss of appreciation. Again, I'm going to sound like an older guy.
You are.
Yard. I am.
We're older guys.
There feels like there's this loss of appreciation of apprenticeship, where apprenticeship is you're doing all the shit work. You're cleaning, like you're getting coffee, you're cleaning the trash. You're lucky you're in the room. And then when you know how to do that, we'll give you something to do. But it's going to be a small thing. And then there's going to be another thing, but you're going to be able to absorb all this.
It's crazy how much you
smart,
learn,
right?
Just by being
present.
I mean, my first job in advertising came after I did a 6-month internship, 40 hours a week. It was more like 80 hours a week
Mhm.
unpaid full-time internship because I wanted to learn advertising. I thought it would, when I was introduced to it as a career, I never even thought of it as a career. I was like, man, this seems awesome. Like this is,
Right.
you guys get paid to walk around in shorts and a t-shirt and play foosball and just like think of ideas. Like there's just so many smart, creative people around. This is what I want to do. And so I literally I quit my job. My parents were like, what? But then they did some research into the agency I was going to, and were like, it was one of the best agencies in the world. And friends who knew the industry told my parents, like, dude, an internship there is like free grad school. Like
Right.
it's a good move if that's what he wants to do. So I had their support because I couldn't have done it without their support. And I interned. Like I worked harder than most of the employees there. I showed up before the creative director. I left after the creative director. I got the coffee. I got the food. I did the dry cleaning. I swept the, like all that
Mhm.
bullshit. But I was in the room and I was seeing how it was done. I was learning things. And I was constantly asking for assignments.
Yeah.
And they eventually hired me and paid me to do the same things. But it's,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Like you don't, and I do, to be fair, I do see that ambition every now and then, right?
Yeah. But
We
a
do get
hungry
people
person.
yeah, or the just raised by parents who are like,
But that's the
you
person
need to,
you want to
you
bring in.
yeah, you need to earn this. It's not
But
going to be
most
handed to you.
people, not most, but I've been around some younger people in our industry, and the tonality, like how they even talk to you, is like, you didn't earn your battle scars, you didn't earn your stripes, we're equals. Not that I want anyone to bend a knee, but when someone comes in a room with 20 years of experience and knows literally where all the landmines are, and that generation doesn't care, you're kind of like leave going, all right, good luck. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's something's going to happen to that. And maybe I just became that old man that's just like, something's going to happen to you kids because you don't really appreciate us old people. But there is something to that, like in our industry, because there is this feeling of the younger workforce is doing well, and they have good jobs. They're asking for astronomical salaries, and the marketplace is paying them, and they want culture change, which is great. And they want a lot of things on their terms. But what I think is being lost is that strange sort of struggle and that feeling of like, I don't, I need to get mentally beat up for a while so I know what that feels like so I can go into battle a little different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
Like
no,
I think
yeah.
that's all being lost.
But it happens at home, right?
Mhm.
Kids are used to being coddled, protected. Parents are fighting the fights for them.
Right.
I heard a story from a good friend where the kid got reprimanded and was put on whatever probation or whatever you do at work because of a violation, and the kid's mom came the next day to argue it for him.
Mm.
And that's the tough part about being a parent, because I don't ever want to see my kids upset
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
hurt
Yeah.
ever, right? But sometimes
Right.
it takes every ounce of my being to let that happen, because they have to know how it feels. They
Right.
have to know that actions have consequences, and they have to know that if they fuck up, that's on them, and they have to fix it, because I'm
Right.
not always going to be there to fix it.
Fix it.
Yeah, and I think that's so. I think it's a product of that, and like you said, it's taking a good ass kicking mentally or physically, or not physically, but
Yeah.
fucking up at
Well,
work.
yeah.
It's a learning experience if you want it to be a learning experience. I mean, you can
I'll
just go
say
home.
physically getting your ass beat as an adult, not as a child, but as an adult, definitely humbles you. Definitely knows what violence feels like,
I'm
you
humble
know?
enough to not try. Let's put it that way.
Right. I know what
Right?
violence feels
I
like.
don't pick fights because I'm already humble.
And when you see like bravado in a bar, or some guy like with his chest out and he's like, you kind of look at him like, do you know what violence really is like? Do you know where this is going to go?
Right.
Like, do you have any idea like how this could go? And not with me, because people that have done sort of combat sports are the first to like back down on anything,
Yeah.
because they know where it's going to go, or they know where it could go.
If you take a martial arts class, they always tell you the very first thing to do in any kind of situation is to look for exits.
Yeah, you back down
and get away. That's the best way to win the game is to not play.
I had my jiu-jitsu instructor. First thing he ever said was, the best thing you have on your body is your feet. And you looked at it. I remember looking at him like, my feet. And he's like, yeah, to walk away, like literally to walk away from the situation. I don't care what they're calling you. I don't care. But it's when I think it shifts is when something's happened to either someone you love or care about, or there is this feeling where it's no longer about you, it's about someone else, or someone got hit, or you know what I mean? Like where there's something going on where you're like, okay. Anyway, this has been fun. I'm sure all of our listeners have been laughing hysterically about this one.
Let's just start over.
Chuckles.
I thought of you.
I think we're good.
That's a wrap. I thought of you. It was either yesterday or the day before. We were talking about science projects and you made me think about why they're there, for safety and to learn that, like, it's not about what you learn during that project. It's about learning respect for what you're handling. Right. My youngest came home and she was like, I asked her how school was. She says, cool. She's like, I did a really fun science project. And I was like, first of all, I was like, well, where the fuck were you last, like a day before we did our last podcast.
Right.
And then she started to explain it, and not well, right? Which leads me to believe that it really isn't about the,
right.
It really isn't about the facts.
Well. Right.
So it was something that they did with boiling water and having cold water and mixing hot water and cold water and expanding the container. I forget which one does which. Like if
it's all about kinetic energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Just whatever. Like I said, she couldn't explain it. So well done. But then she said, I had to wear safety goggles. And I thought about our conversation. I'm like, yeah, because and she's like, why did I have to wear safety goggles? I said, because not everything you do in life is safe. There are going to be some things that you do that can cause harm, and you want to respect those things and you want to prepare for those things, and she looked at me and she was like, so boiling water is dangerous. And I was like, it could be, right?
Could be.
It could be,
but not for like that's the thing. It's the thing behind the thing. Yeah. It's making you feel like just the act of putting goggles on makes you realize whatever environment you're in isn't safe. Maybe not safe for your eyes, but you're just saying it's a reminder on your face that you're in an environment that isn't safe.
Yeah.
Or there's a potential of catastrophe.
Yeah. That's important, and more important than whatever she didn't learn, I guess.
Right. There's always a thing behind the thing, John. Gym class, thing behind the thing. Let's do it.
Should we pick a topic, or should we just?
No, just pick one out of the hat.
Huh?
Yeah, pick one out of the hat. Oh, Jesus. My cat, man. You fucker.
Hope this is unemployment. That'd be fun.
My cat smells. What'd you do? It
says roids. I'm assuming that's steroids, because there's one of those little lines in front of it. Roids, like
steroids.
Steroids. Like you can't spell steroids. Like there's like the
roids.
Yeah, but I love that you put the little line. Like, roids. It sounds like you think of a steroid guy and roids. Like he wouldn't say like steroids.
Juice.
Steroids.
I'm already in.
Steroids.
I went to college with the guys, a couple guys in my fraternity did steroids. Like literally injected themselves with testosterone.
Is that what a steroid is? Believe it or not,
Yeah.
I don't know much about steroids.
Well, let me break it down for you, John.
Okay.
So back then, there were two different types of steroids. There was oil-based and water-based. They're basically just testosterone. Right. There were different types of testosterone. But what you did was if you injected testosterone into your body, the male body then now has an overabundance of testosterone where your body then stops producing the amount of testosterone in your body. That's where they always talk about you're nuts, you're
shrinking. That's all I know about it. Your muscles growing, your nuts shrinking.
Because you're adding in more. But then as you add in more and say you do physical activity, that testosterone then you have now swollen yourself up, but it's a temporary situation. It's not a permanent situation in that then you have problems with your filtering organs, like your kidneys and your liver, things like that. But at a younger age, they were 18 and 19 on steroids. They definitely looked big.
Yeah.
You know, they were
So that's
jacked
temporary.
dudes.
Like
Yeah.
if you took a steroid or you took steroids for
Right.
how often do you take steroids? Is it
It
daily?
depends on your cycles. No. Well, it
Cycles.
depends on your cycle. So you're on a cycle. So it's like HGH, human growth hormone. That's a bit, not a steroid. That's not, I don't think testosterone, but this is where our viewers can get in the comments and tell them I'm all wrong. But there's HGH, which is the new sort of steroid. You and I could take HGH, and it's good for a lot of things if you did it properly with someone actually letting you know how to do this. Like there's men, if you look at guys, like I'm going on a tangent. If you look at guys like The Rock, like Dwayne Johnson, he's on a lot of shit. Like he's on things. Like he's on HGH probably. He's on probably a mix of all kinds of stuff. Like you get a guy who's doing a Marvel comic series, and all of a sudden he gets jacked. Well, he's on something. It's he's putting in hard work, and he's eating more chicken than you and I,
Right.
but he's on something. And that thing is temporary in the sense of your muscles are elastic. So they expand and contract based on swelling. So when you lift, like say you go and you bench press, your muscle fibers tear, they fill with water and I think lactic acid, and they get bigger. And then that constant sort of effect of they being torn, swelling, going back to normal, eventually they get bigger because they get used to being swollen. You add testosterone into that, now you've gotten something that says, okay, we've got more of this environment, so now you're going to grow even more. But again, everything's like a balloon. Then if you stop doing testosterone, your body goes back into this like strange sort of exercise fit looking, but you're not as big as you used to be. So if you look at all the guys that are on like the Mr. Universe or Ms. Universe, those professional bodybuilders, they're literally clean, like not where they drug test, and other ones where they are on a lot of stuff. So if you look at anyone,
I'm assuming that even if it's monitored, stuff is not necessarily healthy.
Right. No, I don't think it's healthy to put anything in your body that's going to change literally your natural output.
Right.
Like again, I don't have any letters behind my name that tell me I'm certified to say this, but the research that I've done is HGH helps with recovery and things like that. But there's still where there's pro, there's con. When you put something in your body, put alcohol in, there's pro, there's always con. You know what I mean? Like anytime you put something in your body. But man, steroids, I remember them shooting. I remember like it was like no big deal. Like we would go in their dorm room to go have dinner, and they literally would be, at times I've saw them like shooting each other up in the butt to go work out. And they were jacked. I remember them just being so jacked.
I love that. And like there's a couple things. One is like, where do you even get steroids? Like,
from the dude in the gym. There's a guy like drug dealers. Yeah. Like, where do you get cocaine?
But well, let's examine that. Where does the dude in the gym get steroids?
He gets it from another guy.
Stop. Where's the source?
That's but
okay, but where's the source?
Unless you're Pablo Escobar, if you want to go all the way back to where the cocaine gets started,
yeah, but
there's someone.
But can you? It's not like you can grow HCG, right? Like you can grow. Like I can trace back cocaine to the fields. I can trace back pot to the fields. I don't know where to trace. Like, is there a shady pharmacist?
No, but I think there's either someone that can get access to pharmaceutical medication, pharmaceuticals, like how do you buy Oxycontin? Well, it went from this guy named One-Eyed Pete. And then there's this other guy, and then there was another guy. And then there was someone at the source of it that said, I have access to this stuff. I know how to pay people off, or I know how to steal it, and they can have access to it.
How come there's not like the steroid Pablo Escobar? Like when are you going to see some dude in a white coat being like taken away in handcuffs from some giant pharma company who is like
Right.
like living $1 billion life on a,
Right.
$85,000 salary,
That's
right?
a really good question, because if you think about it, excuse me,
It's got to be mega, like somewhere out there is the Pablo Escobar of steroids.
someone's
And like,
manufacturing these drugs.
yeah. And
You
like,
think,
it's cloaked as like, an antacid
right?
facility, right? And like, it's like for every box of knockoff Tums is like a shipment of this stuff that gets to One-Eyed Pete and whoever else is going to
I
trickle it down
wouldn't.
to gyms.
You
There's a
might
whole
have something
network. Like
there.
do they, is there like a runner who goes to gyms and has to fight off some other runner? Like, this is my gym.
Well,
This is my turf. Like, we
the
run the
stuff
gyms
I've
in this town.
seen, again, this was years ago. Stuff that I saw looked like it was real bottles with real. It wasn't like in some sort of shot glass,
It's like in a
Just
Ziploc
like
bag.
it looked like a real thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
this was prescribed to people that had low doses of testosterone. Well, they were just shoving it in their bodies, so they were getting it, like you said, like from some dude, like, and then that dude was getting it from another dude. But again, with testosterone or those type of drugs, it's not like you can step on it. You can't like spread. You can't take it all out and add water and then put it back in
Right.
the bottle. It is what it is. But
You can't
yeah,
cut.
I wouldn't
You
be
can't cut
surprised.
steroids.
Exactly.
And
You can step on it.
is there like a second rate? Like, what's the crack of steroids? That, it's
Right.
like a,
I'm sure there's like
it's the cut
like a
steroid that they
low
sell at
rent.
really shitty gyms,
Yeah,
like
like a low rent.
YMCA's.
But there's always that dude in the gym that like can get you stuff. Like there's always that guy. Like every
Yep.
gym I've ever been in, I can point to him and be like, I bet that guy like literally
That's
has a
not a gym
bag
bag.
full of it. No,
That's
it's
not a gym.
just
There's no clothes in there.
his bag makes noise when he picks it up. There's a lot of jingle jangling going on in there. But yeah, it's funny because it's there's topical steroids, there's ingestible steroids.
I want to hear. Look. That's great. We can Wikipedia what steroids are, but I'm
Right.
so much more interested in trying to figure out the root of where it comes from. Like, I would
Right.
love to see just some nerdy scientist, pharmacist, named Henry, right?
Right.
Who's like by his pool with 6 women in bikinis, like doing their thing, and like a helicopter pulls up and like,
Right.
he gets in, and it's like I have to imagine that there are like syndicates, right? Like they have their own turf, they have their own, like, we run the 12 gyms in this county, right? Like
Yeah.
where you never hear about that. Like, how
No.
come people,
But you have like all these places that cook meth, like they make drugs. You're right. Like it
but
seems
at least there's famous drug dealers, or there's famous mobs who, and the, what do you call it? Yeah, like mob families who made a killing in drugs. But like, there's no one's ever glorified like the steroid don of, like North America.
whether there's, I mean, I wouldn't put it past someone that's manufacturing it. It's just literally like I've only seen it with the labels. But it's funny, like it's fun. The minute it said steroids, I was like, we can talk about Barry Bonds. There's a thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Timely.
Like,
yeah,
he cheated.
yeah. But you know what though?
Did he get caught? Did he ever did they ever say
I don't know.
He
I don't
pissed
remember. There's some things that just fail.
Because it was that steroid era.
And that's where
Sammy Sosa, all those guys.
That's where I land on the whole. We're not gonna get into a whole. This is not
Right.
sports. We don't talk sports, right? Or we a little bit, but so it's not going to turn into should he be in the Hall of Fame or not. But it's literally called the steroid era.
Right.
So era. So it's not like you're comparing this jacked up guy amongst mice. Like they were all doing it. Like everybody was doing steroids. So it's sort of like the steroid people who are being left out of the Hall of Fame, I think, are just judged unfairly because they were playing on an even playing field. They were just better at doing it.
I say the same thing about Lance Armstrong.
Like he was the one that got caught, or
he got caught.
Yeah.
Like everyone was doing it. He was just doing it really well. And he was doing it better than everyone else. And he was a gifted athlete. And he had this amazing heart rate. So, You add that, he's going to do all those things and like, oh, he cheated. Like if you really dive into that, like everyone was doping, everyone
Yeah.
was doing stuff. He got caught in the sense that he had an arrogance and ignorance about himself that he never just bent a knee and was like, yep, I'll be the poster boy of like, this is what our sport is.
Well, it's like in racing, like everybody cheats in racing.
Everyone cheats.
Everybody. And it's funny because, there's that, the old story about the car that wins. And then the car that comes in second is like, man, that guy's cheating. It's not fair that they won. They're cheating. And it's like, well, how do you know they're cheating? Can you prove it? Well, yeah, because we're cheating and they still beat us.
Right.
It's like
they're cheating better. Right.
Yeah, they're cheating better. Like that the whole sport of racing is who can cheat the best, or what they like to call it, walk the line,
right.
Blur the line. Is that what they say? Blur the line.
I always thought in racing that it was interesting to see someone like you have 40 cars, say, and one of them just doing so much better than everyone else. And you're like, that's weird. They're 7 seconds in front of everyone else. Like right. Literally so much farther.
The top minds, top minds.
Everyone. And then that car's winning 8 times. And they're like, like there's no like, okay. I mean, I know he's a gifted driver. I know he's on one of the top 3 teams and they have like millions and billions of dollars behind his car. But like if you put all the cars out there, he's doing so much better than everyone else that I wonder if there's a code word where the crew chief's like, slow down. Just slow down. Just take it easy, man. You're killing everybody out there. Like everyone's it's right. Really obvious something's up with our car.
Yeah. Fig Newton.
Right.
Come again?
Right.
Fig Newton.
We're talking Fig Newtons here. Copy that. Fig Newton. And all of a sudden he's just shaving off seconds on laps.
Well, you remember the itchy wrist, right?
Yes.
Like when the code for Clint Boyer to spin on purpose. How's that arm? Is it still itching? Next thing you know, he's no one around him. He's just doing donuts in the middle of a race, right? It's like, you couldn't have at least waited 2 laps.
Right.
Just, there wasn't anything cooler than that. Like
he just pulled the trigger
how's that
right
scratch
away.
On your arm? Do you have to itch? Like who says, like, my wife has never said that to me in 20 years of marriage.
Couldn't they even come up with
poison ivy? No one's ever
better
asked me.
Thing that had to do with the actual sport.
You can't see an itch, right? Right.
Like just say something that could be literally worked into a conversation that your spotter could say to you or someone could say to you.
There's no wind out here.
Yep.
Or have the driver initiate it.
Right.
I'm feeling bumps. Is it windy? And if it's yes, it's windy, spin. No, it's not windy. Don't spin.
Don't spin.
Like, do I have to do everything?
Right.
Like you said, like when he said that, like, how's that itch on your arm? I'm like, you can't see an itch. Like
this is why we're consultants. Like,
I know.
Hey guys, let's come up with a better narrative. Like, let's come up with better code names. Like, let's come up with better like.
And there's
things.
Probably been a million other like cheating in plain sight instances where the language and the cues were just well hidden.
Right.
Like we don't know how many times. Like whenever someone spins on their own, like. I'm just like, man, I want to go back for like 5 minutes of radio communication to hear what happened before. Because if there's small talk, that ain't small talk.
Right. Exactly. That's they're using code names.
I just love that. Like there's top engineering minds, like some of the top engineering minds who will sit in a race shop with the car, computers, testing, air tunnels, like all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, if this happened, we can go just 1/100th of a second faster. So how do we make this happen and not get caught? Like that's not curing cancer.
No.
Right? Like not curing, water shortages, but how to cheat without getting caught in auto racing. That's where the brain power is going, right?
It's such a strange thing because I think if you think about it, if you would say the purity of professional sports, I don't think there ever was purity, because if your business is to win and you want to stay in business, you're going to cheat. Inherently, you're going to cheat. So think baseball pitchers putting thing like Vaseline or like everyone's got to cheat. and golf's hard to cheat, I guess, but maybe the clubs or something. But
But I guess you can
everyone
get stronger
cheats.
and hit the ball further, right? Like,
Yeah, or be on something. But when you look at certain sports, they're out of control in the level of either money spent to win or money spent to cheat. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and spend our experience in auto racing has been. I remember when you and I were first walking around the shop, and I had just been new to the sport. I could not believe, and this wasn't even F1. This is just NASCAR. The amount of money being spent to win. And remember, we're like, just this is just a win, just to
right.
win a race or just to come in the top 10, that they're spending millions and millions of dollars and cheating and trying to out engineer the other team because we have resources and we can afford to do this, and just builds and builds and builds. And you're like, when do they get to the point where they're like, hey, we're spending all this money to win, not to
Right.
make, like you can still make money and be 25th every time in that sport. You know what I mean? Like there's a
Yeah.
point where I'm like, not the purity of the sport, but you're like, why isn't like sports in general, some sports just been like, okay, let's just strip it down, start back up again. And maybe this is what this next gen car is. I don't know. But again,
I always have to
JGR has 300 people
I
and the
always
other
have,
teams have like 20.
I know. Well, I mean, but it's the same in any sports
Right.
facilities and people. But I always have to remind the people who I know in the industry that, like, first and foremost, if you have to step outside. I'm not talking about an owner who just has a massive ego and who hates the other owner and who wants to spend, there's very few, we'll call it, middle class race car owners, right? It's a
Correct.
hobby first and foremost, and it's an ego thing for most owners, right? And they've got a ton of cash, and this is how they spend it, right? I bought a beach house, they race cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I always have to remind people in the industry that first and foremost, we're in the entertainment business.
Right.
That's what we do. We entertain, because there's so many times that, like, I'll get a call from one of my clients who will just be like, man, this happened and this happened. And then with the car, this, with the car, that. And I don't even know why the fuck I care. Like, it's just a stupid car going in a stupid circle, and I should be doing something real. Right. And I have to say, look, it's entertainment. Like, don't
Right.
think of yourself as in the make this stupid car faster than the next stupid car business. Think of the millions and millions and millions of people who escape whatever it is they want to escape because they're cheering for you. That's
Right.
what the business is. That's why it's important to win or to compete, because there's so many people who care. If you were just doing this from a check in the middle of the desert without a TV camera, probably a big fucking waste of time,
Right.
right? But you're not. Like, it's a televised event with fans, and it's a whole industry, and there's lots of people who have jobs, and that's, so you're not in the make the car go fast business. You're in the entertain fans business.
Which goes back to the steroid conversation, was fans like home runs. So
Right.
when you're in an era where there are 70 some home runs being hit by one person, you're going to go like, oh, okay. Everyone seems to be entertained.
Don't
Everyone
you
seems
always
to be
get,
having a good time.
maybe it's just me and being cynical, but, like, I'm always suspect of the superstar.
Yes.
Like, because when there's like let's look at Michael Phelps, right? And I have no reason to believe that he's cheated. I don't, again, I'm not even saying he did.
Oh my God.
What I'm saying is that millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people swim.
Right.
Millions of people swim competitively. You would think that at some point, when you narrow it down to the very best in the world, you would hit a point where there's like 10 of the exact same people.
Yes.
Like you would get to just a point where, like, these 10 are all elite, and on any given day, one's going to win. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to hit that. But instead, we get down to one person who's so much better than those other 9. I kind of,
right.
Why?
You are,
you know what I'm saying?
And maybe
like,
it is
like, why is that? Why wouldn't you just all of a sudden get down to, like, yeah, these 10 people are, on any they're all the same. They're just the best. And on any given day, 10. It's just weird that you get down to one, and that one person.
Right. And the one person can change the trajectory or the feeling of a game or whatever with just them. So I always look at it, even in team sports, when that one person, well, I guess I got to carry the load today. Like one person, and there's like 11 of you out there. You know what I mean?
Of
Like
the best.
right. So the cynicism that I have is something's where there's smoke, there's fire. If you see someone that is amazing in it, someone can say, well, it's hard work and it's their work. Yes.
And it is. That's part of it.
And
that's a lot of it.
It is their access. It's their access to, as an athlete, an amazing food and diet and amazing workout and having a team around you that can put you to be an elite athlete. I get all that. But then, like you said, to be the best on the planet
by a mile.
And there's billions of us.
Right.
And you're the best at that thing. You have to, cynicism has to also say, when is science involved in this? When is there something that's going on here? And again, you can look at genetics. Like Michael Phelps has the longest arms ever, and his shoulders are built so like, yeah, I get it. And that dude has that too. You know what I mean? Like, and they came up together. Mine is when you see an athlete and they're like, look at Michael Jordan. He didn't even make his high school basketball team, sort of made it. And then all of a sudden something happened and this dude takes off. Work ethic, I get it. And like what he was doing, I get it. And like, there's all the things, but then you look at him at an elite athletic situation and the guy can literally carry the team. You have to kind of go, like something's going on.
Yeah.
And that's just us being cynics. But at the same time,
it's us being cynical. It's not, there's nothing, it's not even being a conspiracy theorist. It's just saying that's strange.
There's strange.
A gazillion people who play basketball. And you would think that, like I said, once you get it down to like the NBA, you would think that like they would just all be the best, all be the same. Like, Michael Phelps's body frame, if God were to come down this earth, God could probably gather 8,412 people identical to that body frame. Do you know what I'm saying? And maybe they just hated the water. Maybe he got lucky that like he's built for swimming and he swam where other people are built for swimming and they became artists.
Because you could look at it, if you do look at the Olympics, generally everyone looks the same in that sport. So you look at all gymnasts, they all sort of look alike. There isn't one you're like, what the fuck's going on there? Like, look at that one. You know what I mean? Like there isn't like,
or it's from that country that had to send someone, right? Like,
right. Like there, exactly. Like good luck. It's, if you look at swimmers, they all kind of look the same body type. They're all generally the same height-ish, weight-ish. You know what I mean? They're in a phylum. They're like, that's the group. And then one does so much better than the other ones. Again, like he could say like he put in the hours and the work, and when everyone else was sleeping, he was working. I get all that. But I'm with you. Like there's a point where you look at it and say, I don't think the guy cheated, but
like, let's put it this way. Here's the best way I can sum it up. I'm not even implying that there was cheating, but there's definitely doing something different.
There was something different because he was winning so much.
Yeah. And it could be, and kudos to him, right? Like if he's staying within the law and doing something different, if they found the sauce that no one else found, and it's the same with racing. When you find that thing that makes you go faster, usually people catch up because they study the shit out of what you're doing. There's probably there's a money drop somewhere where some spy from a team comes and collects. It's funny how many like mid-level racing people live in beautiful houses, right? But right. So there's probably some bag drops, right? And right. Because eventually people catch up. But Michael Phelps was clearly doing something differently than the other swimmers. Exactly. Something. And again, it might not be illegal, but it wasn't the same. It might be lightning in a bottle too. It might be there will never be another blank. There will never be another this person or another that person, because all of these things came together at once and it was like perfect timing, and we're never going to have that again. Okay, that's cool. But like you said, with the secret sauce is trying to replicate that
to say, what are the elite teams and the elite people doing differently than everyone else if it's a not even playing field, because the Padres do not have the Yankees facility.
Right.
And they don't have the payroll, and they don't have but they're all professionals. They're all like,
yeah, but even, yeah. And that's why sometimes the Padres beat the Yankees. Like they still are the, 300 or however many people are in the league, 500 best baseball players on planet Earth. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you think at some point you would get down to a thing where like, all right, these are the 100 best. They're all the same
right.
on any given day. Like there's not just the one.
Yeah.
It's science.
I always see, it's funny with racing, if you looked at NASCAR specifically, that there's 40 guys. Apparently these are the elite of the elite. One could argue that by saying some are based on relationships.
Yeah.
But let's just say for argument's sake that there's 40 guys on the track that they're the best. When you do have someone winning as much as what we've seen in the past, or what you and I experienced, winning that much, there is a moment of, I can't believe they think we're cheating. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, like if you win, and it's not so much hard to win, it's just so hard to win once.
Right.
So hard to win once in that sport, let alone 8 times.
And the reason why teams, and like I said, teams think they're cheating because they're cheating.
Right.
So they know that like if the guy who kept finishing second to Lance Armstrong is also, do whatever the was it the blood swapping, whatever the thing that they did, blood spinning.
Yeah. Spinning.
They can rightly accuse Lance Armstrong of cheating because they were probably also doing it.
Right.
So they know for a fact that there's just no way that this guy could outlast them without doing it as well.
In my novice opinion, I'm still in the junior varsity team, is if you have, say you're Stuart Haas and you have X amount of cars out there and it's a team, and one of the cars of your, say, 4 is winning all the time, what's the other 3 doing? Like, what are you doing differently? Like, what are those cars not getting? Like what's happening there? You know what I mean? Like in some
instances, yeah, it is like there is driver talent involved, right? Like
I'm not saying that there isn't, and driver talent, but isn't going to get you 8 wins
right
every time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's going to get you in the top 10 and the top 5 because shit happens. Like you and I know it's like shit happens out there. But when you have a team, and you think like everyone's getting the same data and getting the same treatment and getting the same sort of investment in each car, and one car out of that team is doing super well, and the other maybe 2 out of that car can't even get in the top fucking 20, something's going on. You're also,
but you're saying that under the assumption that there's teamwork,
right?
That there's not inside the shop. There's 4 different cars, 4 different jobs, 4 different people whose responsibility is for those cars. They could fucking hate each other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, or they could be bucking for the promotion or to move up. Like, are they really sharing? Are they throwing other people off the scent? It's not like a team sport in the sense that, if you're in baseball and you go 0 for 4 and you make 2 errors, but someone else is killing it, you still get the championship. You still get the win on your record.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right. There is that.
They're all individuals. Feeling. They're actually playing each other.
Yeah. Well, they're independent contractors, but owned once in a while by a team. But you would think that whatever Kevin Harvick gets, he's being shared. That same data is being shared with the other 3.
And
probably not.
And some of it.
I can't assume that, but
maybe just enough to finish 5th. Right. Like, it's like you would think that the same ingredient would be going, but there could be a step missing accidentally. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I forgot there was 612 steps, not 611. So like it probably is shared, but to a certain point, because like I said, they're still competing with each other.
Right.
And like at some point we're going to say too much. And that's like the beauty is I don't know.
We walked back. I was like, what can we say than what we know?
Well, what's funny is I don't know anything for a fact. I know jokes. I know anecdotes, just like that guy's cheating. How do you know? Well, we're cheating and he killed us. right? Like I know anecdotes, but I've never been like in a cheating meeting.
No.
I've never like been going through tech where the car's inspected and the guy like, puts his finger over the laser, right? Like I've
Right.
never, you hear stories, but like there's like, if the FBI came right now and put me in a lie detector and was like, tell us about the cheating, I'd be like,
Yeah, I wouldn't
I've
know.
heard funny stories, but
Yeah.
I've never seen it, and
I've
you
been
just,
I've been in a room where everyone was guffawing, like, like, but one can assume,
yeah. And it's just, because like I said, I've heard stories, but that's, who knows how much of it's true. And plus, like you said, the eye test, like, when someone's 7 seconds ahead, like it's of the same Chevy that is on some other guy's Chevy, coming from the same garage, brought there on the same truck. Oh,
that's the point where it's like you don't really. There must be like a common. All right, let's just all be cool about this, because I would protest. I would have protested last year.
that's what
If I was
happened
other
with,
teams. I
you
would
know
have
what's
been
funny
like,
with that's what happened, right? With the, I don't know that I'm going to butcher this in the comment section, will go crazy, but like with the Houston Astros, right? Like someone
right.
got traded from that team. I was like, oh, by the way, this is what we were doing when I was there. Have fun,
Yeah.
Houston. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like that's like, how do you hush people like
I
that?
don't know.
Like that's
Yeah.
the weird thing, is like, we're going to cheat and you're in on it and you're going to know that you cheat. And now we have to employ you for the rest of your life or kill you. Like that. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Because there's only so many places they probably can work. So if they're known as like, again, if you're an engineer and you work at Haas, and then all of a sudden you go work at, JGR, and you said, this is how we were cheating. You don't go out in public and say,
Right.
oh, they were cheating, because I think then you're unemployable.
Yeah,
You're
because
like,
then what's funny is that I was waiting for the Houston Astros, like, some guy gets traded from the Astros to wherever, say the Twins, and then spills them for cheating. It'd be great if an ex-Twin was like, oh yeah, hypocrite, this is how the Twins cheat. And then that guy's LT was like, oh yeah, hypocrite, this is how the Padres tweet. And then
and it just like fucking goes nuts.
Just becomes this huge domino, right? Right. Like no one's employable, everyone's get like, because like, yeah, they're everyone is looking to get an edge. There's for sure cheating things. And what's so amazing, and everyone's like, well, no, just the Astros cheat. Just the Astros got caught. That's it. That's the difference. They got caught. Like when people call like Tom Brady, Bill Belichick,
those Patriots,
those guys are all cheating.
No, they got caught.
Those guys got caught.
They got caught. Like everyone cheats. Everyone steals playbooks. Everyone, like, if playbooks weren't being stolen, they wouldn't be like encrypted like their goddamn launch codes now on pads. Like literally, and you can see guys like right before the playoffs are near, where they're trying to like bring guys on from other teams to be like, all right, what are their defenses? Like, so they're just trying to get data. They could care less if that guy plays. They're like, they just need data out of his head. Yeah. So you might as well just give him a headset and a hoodie. Like, take your pads off. You're no longer playing, but you're going to tell us what they do. And that's not cheating. That's smart. Like, that's like literally being strategic.
People would call that cheating, though.
I don't think so. I think that's just being strategic. Like,
I'm saying that people, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm saying that people would say like, well, they cheated by bringing that guy. Like, because so many people believe in like the spirit. That's not in the spirit of the game. No. Taking people's plays.
People also put too much value on sports.
It's also a $1 billion industry. What spirit are you talking about?
It's still a business. It's still it's just for entertainment. Like when guys are getting in fights, fist fights in a professional football arena because of I'm wearing certain colors and you're wearing certain colors and we're going to beat each other up. Shit's just gotten like, all right, everyone relax. These two teams, like, I don't understand that part of it.
There's always you're right. I mean, we could do another couple hours. Oh fuck, dude, we gotta wrap up soon.
Yeah.
Is that we don't over an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on fans, right? I should just add that. I'll remember to add that to the hat. We'll do it sometime.
That's why they're called fanatics.
But yeah, and it's like, I mean, even me, I'm a fan of teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny when like there's a big win and I'm super happy that night and it feels great. Then I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think about is like, oh yeah, I forgot we won last night. That was awesome. That was a great game. And then by like a little after lunch, I'm like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like that didn't change my life. Like
Right.
that was just a short little burst of,
No
dopamine
one,
or
no
whatever it
one's
is that gets
paying
you
you.
psyched up, and
Right.
no one.
And that's why I hate when people use the words we. No one's paying you to be on that team.
Right.
And hate's a very strong word, but when someone's like, I fucking hate Steeler fans. I'm like, what? Fucking Steeler fans. They're just fucking assholes. Like, do you know Pittsburgh's a lot like Baltimore?
Right.
And they're the same people. They just
Yes.
have a different accent, but they're the same kind of people. Like, yeah, fuck those guys. Like, really? Like, or you can go, if you
Most
go to like,
people's fans suck.
well, because we've created that environment.
Right.
We've created a hostile environment. Like, if you go to Eagles game, don't wear a Redskin jersey because they're going to light you on fire. What? Like, there's a point where you're like, who are we now? Like, when wasn't a couple of years ago, some guy got killed, beat up in a Giants parking lot or something like that, where he literally got physically assaulted because he was wearing a different jersey. Now he
I
could
don't
have
think
done
it was the
other
Giants.
things.
I would have known.
He could have done other things.
Right.
Let's assume he like mouthed off or he did something, but to die
Yeah.
at a professional sporting event, there's a part where I'm like, who are we? What is going on out there that I have enough bravado that I can say, fuck those guys because they're wearing a different jersey than us. They're assholes. Like,
Right.
you just spent $75 to sit in a seat, and now you're in jail because you
Right.
drank so much and you're yelling at the guy with a different colored jersey than you.
Because he's getting mouthy.
Because he's making fun of your team.
Right.
Steve Bisciotti isn't paying you a dick. You're actually paying him. Like, I just don't get that, the fandom part of it, where maybe I just don't bleed purple and black, but I just don't get that part of it. My day's fine if everyone loses. My next day is so good. That's why I like making little bets, like little wagers, like putting money on a game, not like with a bookie, but like if you and I were going to go to a game, like let's put $20 on this.
Right.
Then it's fun.
Yeah.
Because you've got skin in the game. You've got like, all right, all right, we got something going on here. But I don't like when someone would rather like beat the shit out of someone in a parking lot because they're just, or
all
throw food at them or whatever.
Here's the deal. We're gonna put fans in the hat. Yeah. We need to stop.
Okay, real quick. You have to watch, before this ends, you have to watch Alone. Your homework.
Right. We talked about that. I haven't done it yet. That's the show with the people stranded to survive.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. Okay. It's on the Discovery Channel.
I'll even write that.
No, it's on the History Channel. Sorry, History Channel. Alone. Right. Watch the first season. They've worked out some kinks. There's 8 seasons. I think I'm on season 3. Right. It's amazing. It's so.
History Channel.
Yes, I can't wait to talk to you about it.
Because I know I'm gonna do my little voice thing, and I'm gonna say, boop, Alone, and then it's gonna come up like just a whole bunch of romantic comedies or like just things like it's gonna think that it's like, here's like Real Housewives. I'm like, no, I'm not alone.
Right, or your phone will be like, we know you're alone because we're paying attention. Right.
Oh, you're alone. Yeah.
Alone.
And also Fanatics.
Yep.
Put in the hat.
All right.
Wait, what are we going to call this episode? It's technically Steroids.
Yeah.
I don't even think, honestly, I don't think we need I think steroid podcast probably is a thing. It could just be called Steroids.
Or just a bummer because we went down the first at least 45 minutes was very serious. I'm sorry, guys. Like
it's okay.
We'll be funnier next one. Yeah. I'm good though.
We'll have a better week.
I'm good. Look at me.
I know you're going to be good.
Good.
That's the worst part about being in the situation where you're in is like not truly just like, because every time you've been in a bad situation, and I mean you like people, right? Every time I've been in a bad situation, I look back on it and I think I was really worried then, and I don't need to be. And it's crazy how much I was worried then. like I know you're going to be fine, right?
Oh,
Like if you could just get in my head right now, you'd be like, oh
Right.
yeah, right. And it's good that you're taking the time to sort of
Yeah.
reflect that.
because I have all this kicking horse coffee.
That's right. If you have Kicking Horse Coffee, you
Right.
will have the energy and the motivation to go out and find your next job.
It's velvety, earthy, and spirited. Kicking horse coffee.
Just like this conversation was.
Kick me when you're down with Kicking Horse Coffee. All right, buddy.
I